If you're reading this, you probably already think I'm the bad guy. Spoiler alert, I am, but only because she wrote the screenplay for my villain origin story. My name is Carson Hale. I'm 34, and I coordinate IT projects for a mid-sized tech company in Boston. 3 months ago, I thought I had a decent marriage. Today, I'm planning the kind of revenge that would make Stephen King proud. Let me start at the beginning, back when I still believed in things like loyalty and partnership. Back when I thought, for better or worse, actually meant something. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning in September. Jenna was standing in our kitchen, designer coffee mug in one hand, phone in the other, live streaming her morning routine to her 2,000 Instagram followers. She called it lifestyle content. I called it narcissism with a filter. "Good morning, beautiful souls," she cooed into the camera, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. Today's affirmation is about knowing your worth. Remember, you are the prize, and prizes don't pay their own way. I looked up from my laptop, where I was reviewing project timelines for a client presentation. Did you just tell 2,000 strangers that someone else should fund your lifestyle? Jenna's smile never wavered, but her eyes went cold. She ended the live stream and set down her phone with deliberate precision. "Carson, honey, we've talked about this. Successful women understand their value. I bring beauty, style, and social connections to this relationship. You bring stability." The way she said stability made it sound like a participation trophy. Right, stability, like the mortgage payments, car insurance, groceries, and utilities. I closed my laptop. Silly me, thinking partnerships involved mutual contribution. I contribute plenty. She gestured at herself like she was presenting a game show prize. I maintain this body, this face, this image. Do you know how much time and money that takes? I'm an investment in our future. Should I Venmo you my self-respect too, or do you prefer cash? That's when she said it, the line that would echo in my head for months. Carson, you need to understand something. In any relationship, there's the prize and there's the contestant. I'm the prize. You're lucky to even be in the game. I stared at her. Really stared. The woman I'd married 3 years ago had been ambitious but kind, confident but not cruel. This person standing in my kitchen was someone else entirely. "The prize," I repeated slowly. "Exactly." She picked up her phone again, already moving on. "I'm meeting Blair for brunch. We're discussing my collaboration with that new boutique downtown. Don't wait up." She kissed the air near my cheek and walked out, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and the lingering poison of her words. I sat there for a long time, staring at my reflection in the black laptop screen. When had I become the contestant in my own marriage? That afternoon, I called my buddy Dev at work. She said, "What?" Dev's voice crackled through my earbuds as I walked around downtown Boston, needing air and perspective. "That she's the prize and I'm the contestant." Jesus, Carson, that's not a wife. That's a subscription service with attitude. Dev had always seen through Jenna's act. He was the office comic relief, a software engineer with a master's degree in sarcasm and a PhD in cutting through bullshit. "The thing is," I said, dodging a cluster of tourists near Faneuil Hall, "I don't think she was being cruel. I think she genuinely believes it. Which makes it worse. Look, man, I've watched you turn yourself inside out for 3 years trying to make her happy. When's the last time she asked how your day went? When's the last time she contributed to anything that wasn't directly about her?" I tried to remember. I couldn't. "She's meeting with Blair about some boutique collaboration, probably another scheme to monetize her Instagram. Blair's that wannabe influencer with the fake British accent. That's the one. Carson, my friend, you're married to a woman who thinks she's a brand, and brands don't love people back. They just extract value." That night, Jenna came home with shopping bags from 3 different stores. Designer jeans, artisanal skincare, a handbag that cost more than most people's rent. "How was brunch?" I asked, not looking up from my laptop. "Amazing. Blair introduced me to this boutique owner, Tessa. She wants me to be their social media ambassador. It's perfect. I get a clothing allowance, commission on sales I generate, plus exposure to their client base." "Sounds great. What's the time commitment?" "Oh, it's flexible. A few posts a week, some in-store appearances. The real opportunity is networking with their high-end clients. Blair says there are some very wealthy men who shop there for their wives." Something cold settled in my stomach. "Wealthy men?" "Potential clients, Carson, for my styling services." She said it like I was being deliberately obtuse. "I'm building a business here." Right, of course. But I'd heard the way she said wealthy men. There was a hunger in her voice that had nothing to do with professional ambition. Over the next few weeks, I watched my wife transform into someone I barely recognized. The boutique job became her obsession. She'd leave early and come home late, always with new stories about clients and sales and networking opportunities. There's this one client, she told me one evening, examining her manicure in the bathroom mirror. Max something. He spends more in a month than most people make in a year. He's married, but his wife has no style sense. He asked if I'd help him pick out a few things for her. That's nice of you. He's paying me $500 just for the consultation. Cash. $500. For a consultation? I made good money, but even I knew that was excessive for picking out clothes. He must really value your expertise. He does. He says I have impeccable taste. He's thinking about putting me on a monthly retainer. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Jenna scrolled through her phone beside me, liking and commenting on posts from her growing network of lifestyle entrepreneurs and boss babes. Jenna, I said into the darkness. Are you happy? She looked over at me, her face illuminated by the blue glow of her screen. What kind of question is that? A simple one. Are you happy? With us, I mean. She was quiet for so long I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then, I'm happy with who I'm becoming. I'm finally living up to my potential. And us? Another long pause. You're a good man, Carson. Stable, reliable. But I need more than stable. I need someone who can match my ambition, my drive, someone who sees me as the prize I am. There it was again. The prize. I see you, I said quietly. No, you see who I used to be. You want me to stay small, stay grateful for stability. But I'm meant for more than this. She gestured around our bedroom, our nice bedroom in our nice apartment that I paid for with my stable, reliable job. What's more, Jenna? Everything. Better restaurants, better clothes, better trips, a better life. The life I deserve. The life you deserve, I repeated. What about the life we build together? She turned back to her phone. That's contestant thinking, Carson. Prizes don't build. Prizes get built for. I rolled over and pretended to sleep, but my mind was racing. My wife had just told me, in the clearest terms possible, that she saw our marriage as a transaction, one where she provided her mere presence and I provided everything else. The next morning, I did something I'd never done before. I checked our joint bank account. What I found made me freeze. $3,000. Gone. Just like that. I scrolled through the transactions on our joint account, my coffee growing cold as the evidence mounted. Designer boutique charges, spa treatments, restaurants I'd never been to, cash withdrawals with no explanation. But here's the thing that really got me. Every single purchase was made on days when Jenna claimed to be working at the boutique, days when she was supposedly earning money, not spending it. I called the bank. Mr. Hale? Yes. I can see the transactions you're asking about. All authorized with your wife's debit card. Is there a problem? No problem. Just checking on some purchases. Can you tell me if there have been any deposits to this account from... I tried to remember the boutique's name. From Lux Styling or anything like that? Let me check. No, sir. I don't see any business deposits. Just your direct deposit from your employer every 2 weeks. So Jenna was spending money she claimed to be earning, but no money was actually coming in. Either she was lying about the job entirely, or she was hiding her income somewhere else. That evening, I tried the direct approach. How's the boutique work going? You've been putting in a lot of hours. Jenna was in the bathroom, applying what looked like a $100 face mask. It's going amazing. Tessa says I'm a natural. And Max, that client I mentioned, he's increased his retainer. That's great. When do you usually get paid? It varies. Commission work is different from your little salary job, Carson. Sometimes I get paid immediately. Sometimes it takes weeks to process. Sure, I get that. I was just wondering because I haven't seen any deposits in our joint account. Her hands stilled on her face. In the mirror, I could see her eyes narrow. I opened my own business account. For tax purposes. My accountant recommended it. Your accountant? Blair recommended him. He specializes in influencer income. Blair again. Blair, who'd never held a real job in her life, but somehow afforded a downtown loft and a luxury car. That makes sense, I said. Maybe you could show me the statement sometime for our tax planning? Carson. She turned around, face mask cracking slightly around her mouth. Why are you interrogating me about my business? I'm not interrogating. I'm asking about our finances. We're married. We're supposed to be partners. Partners, yes. But that doesn't mean you get to micromanage my career. You handle your money, I'll handle mine. What happened to our money? Our money is for shared expenses. My business income is mine to reinvest in my growth. The logic was breathtaking. Our joint account was for bills and groceries, things that benefited her. Her mysterious income was private, for things that benefited only her. So, when you spend $3,000 from our joint account on clothes and spa treatments, that's shared expenses? Her face went very still. You're tracking my spending? I'm looking at our bank statements, Jenna. That's not tracking, that's basic financial awareness. I can't believe you're being so controlling. Those weren't personal purchases, they were business investments. I have to look the part to attract high-end clients. $500 handbags are business investments? Yes. God, Carson, this is exactly what I mean. You think small. You see expenses where I see investments in our future. Our future? I thought your business income was private. She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker across her face. Calculation. She was deciding how much truth to tell me. Look, she said finally. I know this is an adjustment, but I'm building something here. Something that could change our lives. I need you to trust me. I want to trust you, but trust works both ways. I need transparency. You need control. There's a difference. That night, after Jenna fell asleep, I did something that 3 months ago would have been unthinkable. I went through her phone. I know how that sounds. I know what you're thinking. But here's the thing about gaslighting. It makes you doubt your own perceptions. When someone you love tells you that black is white often enough, you start looking for proof that the sky is blue. Her phone was a goldmine of evidence, and none of it was good. Text messages with Blair. Blair, how's the husband situation? Jenna, same old. He's getting suspicious about money, but he's too polite to really push. You know how these beta types are. Blair, ugh. At least Max is generous. Speaking of which, how was dinner? Jenna, amazing. He took me to that new place on Newberry Street, the one Carson could never afford, LOL Blair. Did you tell Carson you were working late again? Jenna, obviously. He actually believes I'm building a styling business. It's kind of sad. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through weeks of messages. Dinners with Max, shopping trips funded by Max, spa days and weekend getaways that I'd been told were business networking events. But the worst part wasn't the lying. It was the contempt, the casual cruelty with which she discussed me, our marriage, our life together. Jenna, Carson asked about my business income today. Had to give him some story about a separate account. Blair, careful, you don't want him getting too curious. Jenna, please. He's so desperate to believe I'm happy that he'll accept any explanation. Besides, what's he going to do? He needs me more than I need him. Blair, true. You're definitely the prize in that relationship. Jenna, exactly. And prizes don't explain themselves to contestants? I set the phone down carefully, my hands steady now. The shaking had stopped, replaced by something colder and more focused. My wife was having an emotional affair, possibly a physical one. She was lying about her job, her income, and her activities. She was spending our money on another man while hiding any money he gave her, and she was doing it all while treating me like I was lucky to be in the same room with her. But here's what she didn't know about contestants. We study the game. We learn the rules. And sometimes we figure out how to win. The next morning, I started making plans. First, I called my bank and removed Jenna's access to our joint savings account. Not the checking account. I didn't want to tip her off yet. But our emergency fund, our vacation money, our down payment for the house we'd been planning to buy, all of it went into a new account with only my name on it. Then I called a lawyer. Mr. Hale, I need to ask you directly. Are you planning to file for divorce? Margaret Vance had been recommended by a coworker who'd gone through his own messy separation. She was sharp, practical, and had a reputation for protecting her clients' assets. I'm not sure yet. Right now I'm just trying to understand my options. Smart. Tell me about your marriage. Any prenups, shared assets, children? No kids, thank God. No prenup. We were young and stupid and in love. Shared assets. I thought about it. The apartment lease is in both names, but I pay the rent. Both cars are financed, but again, I make the payments. Credit cards are joint, but I pay them off every month. What about her income? That's complicated. She claims to have a job, but I can't verify any income. I think she might be hiding money, or lying about having money at all. Infidelity? I hesitated. Emotional affair, definitely. Maybe physical. I have text messages. Good. Massachusetts isn't a no-fault state, but evidence of adultery can affect asset division and alimony. My advice? Document everything. Bank statements, text messages, social media posts, credit card bills. Build a timeline. And whatever you do, don't let her know you're suspicious. What if she's spending marital assets on this affair? Then we can potentially recover those funds. But first, we need proof. That afternoon, I went shopping. Not for clothes or gadgets, but for information. I bought a small recording device, the kind private investigators use. I bought a GPS tracker for her car. I bought a hidden camera for our apartment. I felt like a spy in my own life. But Jenna had made the rules. Prizes don't explain themselves to contestants. Fine. But contestants get to study the game. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered evidence like I was preparing for the trial of the century. I documented every lie, every unexplained absence, every mysterious expense. I followed her digital footprints across social media, traced her location through the GPS tracker, and recorded conversations where she spun elaborate stories about her business meetings. The picture that emerged was devastating. Max wasn't just a client. He was married, wealthy, and had a history of affairs with younger women. He was essentially paying Jenna to be his part-time mistress. Expensive dinners, shopping sprees, weekend trips to his business properties. In return, Jenna provided companionship, ego stroking, and what her text messages coyly referred to as personal styling sessions. But the most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source: Jenna herself. She'd started a private Instagram account, separate from her public one, where she documented her new lifestyle. Photos from expensive restaurants with captions like, "When he knows how to treat a prize." Pictures of designer gifts with hashtags like, "or spoiled girl" and "know your worth." Videos from luxury hotel rooms with her talking directly to the camera. Ladies, I cannot stress this enough. Never settle for a man who doesn't invest in your happiness. I spent 3 years accepting mediocrity because I thought that was love. But love isn't about stability or partnership or any of that basic bullshit. Love is about recognizing the prize and treating her accordingly. She posted these videos while I was at work, paying for the phone plan that allowed her to share them. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. But the final piece of evidence, the one that would change everything, came from the most unlikely source of all. Mrs. Kowalski, our 70-year-old landlord, knocked on my door on a Thursday evening in October. "Carson, dear, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is everything all right with you and Jenna?" Mrs. Kowalski was old-school Polish, the kind of woman who noticed everything and forgot nothing. She'd lived in our building for 40 years and treated the tenants like her extended family. "Why do you ask, Mrs. K?" "Well, it's just that I've seen her leaving at odd hours. And there was a man here yesterday, a very expensive-looking man, who seemed to know which apartment was yours. He was asking the mailman about you both." "What kind of questions?" "About your lease, your finances, whether you lived alone. The mailman told him to mind his own business, but—" She shrugged. "I thought you should know." Max was investigating me, which meant this wasn't just an affair, it was a plan. That night, I confronted Jenna. "We need to talk." She was in the bathroom again. Always in the bathroom, always preparing her face for someone else's eyes. "Can it wait? I have an early meeting tomorrow." "With Max?" Her hand froze halfway to her face. In the mirror, our eyes met. "I don't know what you mean." "I mean Max, your client. The one who's been asking our mailman about our lease agreement." She turned around slowly. For the first time in months, I had her complete attention. "Carson." "No. No more lies. I know about the dinners, the hotels, the private Instagram account. I know about the money he's giving you and the money you're spending. I know about the text messages with Blair. I know everything." She stared at me for a long moment, and then something shifted in her expression. The mask slipped, and I saw who she really was underneath. "So what?" she said. "What are you going to do about it?" The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. No denial, no apology, no shame, just defiance. "I'm going to give you a choice," I said. "End it now, completely, and we'll go to counseling. Try to rebuild what we had. Or what? You'll divorce me? Take half of nothing and pay me alimony for the next 10 years? She laughed. "Carson, you still don't get it. You need me more than I need you. You're 34 years old, boring, and average. When's the last time another woman looked at you twice? I'm the best thing that ever happened to you, and we both know it. You're having an affair? I'm exploring my options. There's a difference. You're spending our money on another man. I'm investing in my future. If that future includes Max instead of you, then those were smart investments." I stared at her. This woman I'd loved, this stranger I'd married. "You really see me as that pathetic? That disposable?" "I see you as what you are. A nice, stable, forgettable man who was useful for a while. But I'm the prize, Carson, and prizes don't stay on shelves forever." That was the moment I stopped trying to save our marriage and started planning to win the war. You're right, I said quietly. You are a prize. And I think it's time the world knew exactly what they'd be winning. The thing about people who live their lives online is that they forget the internet is forever. Every post, every story, every carefully curated moment of fake authenticity gets preserved in digital amber, waiting for the right person to come along and provide context. I spent the weekend building my case like a prosecutor preparing for trial. Screenshots of Jenna's private Instagram posts, printed copies of her text conversations with Blair, bank statements showing the pattern of her spending, and a detailed timeline of her lies cross-referenced with her public social media presence. But I didn't want to just expose her. That would be too easy, too quick. Jenna had spent months making me feel small, insignificant, disposable. She'd turned our marriage into a performance where she was the star and I was the unpaid stagehand. If she wanted to live her life as a public spectacle, then I'd give her an audience she'd never forget. On Monday morning, I started with Dev. Holy shit, he said, scrolling through the evidence on my laptop. Carson, this is sociopathic. Which part? The lying, the cheating, or the casual cruelty? All of it, but especially this. He pointed to one of Jenna's private Instagram videos, the one where she called our marriage 3 years of accepting mediocrity. I need your help with something, I said. Dev was a social media wizard. He understood algorithms, viral marketing, and the dark art of making content spread like wildfire. More importantly, he was loyal, discreet, and had been watching Jenna's act for years. What do you need? I want to tell a story, but I want to tell it right. We spent our lunch break crafting the perfect post. Not angry, not bitter, just factual. A simple timeline of events, told with the dry humor that had gotten me through the worst months of my marriage. Carson Hale. October 15th, 2024. A brief story about prizes and contestants. 6 months ago, my wife told me that in every relationship there's a prize and a contestant. She was the prize. I was lucky to be in the game. I thought that was an interesting perspective, so I decided to study the rules. Turns out prizes come with a cost. In this case, that cost included $3,000 in business investments, designer clothes and spa treatments, dozens of client meetings, romantic dinners with married men, a professional development account where she hides money from her sugar daddy, and my personal favorite, calling our marriage 3 years of accepting mediocrity on her secret Instagram account. But here's the thing about prizes. They're only valuable if people want to win them. So I have a question for the internet. What exactly am I supposed to be competing for? The real prize, you know your worth. Dear modern marriage. I attached a single screenshot. Jenna's text message to Blair calling me too polite to really push, and beta. Nothing explicit, nothing that could be considered revenge porn or harassment, just her own words, in her own voice, revealing her own character. I posted it at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday when social media engagement peaks. Within an hour, it had 50 likes and a dozen comments. By evening, it had been shared 300 times. By the next morning, it was trending locally on Twitter with the hashtag Warrior Prize or Problem. But the real explosion came when someone found Jenna's public Instagram account and started comparing her posts to my timeline. Her carefully curated boss babe aesthetic suddenly looked different when people realized it was funded by a cheating scandal. Her inspirational quotes about knowing your worth hit differently when you knew she was hiding money from her husband. The internet, as it turns out, has very strong feelings about people who play victim while victimizing others. It's a Boston blogger. Wait, is this the same Jenna who's always posting about financial independence while spending her husband's money on affairs? Reality checks 224. Prizes don't stay on shelves forever. Girl, you're not a prize, you're a participation trophy. Modern Woman Mag. This is why women get a bad name. Not all of us are gold-digging narcissists, thanks very much. Dev the engineer, plot twist. The real prize was the financial stability we made along the way. Dev's comment got 2,000 likes in 6 hours. But the best part, the absolute chef's kiss of social media justice, came when Jenna tried to control the narrative. She posted a long, rambling Instagram story about toxic masculinity and controlling husbands and women supporting women. She talked about being targeted by trolls and having her privacy violated and needing to protect her energy from negative people. The problem was, she posted it from Max's BMW. I know this because the GPS tracker in her car showed her at his downtown condo, and the reflection in her sunglasses clearly showed leather seats that didn't exist in either of our vehicles. Someone screenshot the story and posted it to Reddit with the caption, "Woman complains about controlling husband while literally at her affair partner's apartment." It got 40,000 upvotes in 12 hours. That's when the local news picked it up. Good evening, I'm Sandra Chen with Channel 7 News. Tonight, a Boston woman's marriage drama has gone viral, sparking a citywide debate about modern relationships, social media authenticity, and what one Twitter user called weaponized victimhood. We spoke with relationship experts about the phenomenon of prize culture and its impact on... I watched the segment from my office, surrounded by coworkers who'd been following the story all week. When they interviewed a psychology professor about narcissistic behavior patterns, Dev leaned over and whispered, "Think they'll use this as a case study?" But the real victory came that Friday, when Jenna finally called me. "Carson, what the hell have you done?" She was crying, actually crying. I'd never heard her cry before, not even at her grandmother's funeral. "I told the truth," I said calmly. "Isn't that what you wanted? Authenticity, living your truth? You've ruined my life. My Instagram followers are down to 800. The boutique fired me. Tessa won't even return my calls. And Max..." She stopped herself. "What about Max?" "Nothing. Forget Max." "Let me guess. His wife found out?" Silence. "Jenna, are you still there?" "His wife hired a private investigator. She's filing for divorce and naming me as co-respondent. Do you know what that means?" I did know what that meant. It meant Max's very expensive divorce was about to become Jenna's very public problem. It meant depositions and court records and her name in legal documents that would follow her forever. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided I was just a contestant," I said. "Carson, please, we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can what? Rebuild our marriage on the foundation of your affair? Start fresh now that your sugar daddy's wife cut off your allowance?" "It wasn't like that." "What was it like, Jenna? Explain it to me. Make me understand how spending our money on another man while calling me mediocre was actually an act of love." She was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. "I made mistakes," she said finally. "No, you made choices. You chose to lie to me every day for months. You chose to steal money from our joint account. You chose to humiliate me in front of your friends. You chose to plan a future with another man while pretending to build one with me. I never meant for it to go this far. You meant every bit of it. The only thing you didn't mean was getting caught. So what happens now?" I looked around my office at the life I'd built through years of steady work and careful planning, the life she'd called mediocre, the life that was about to become a lot more interesting. Now you get to find out what it's like to be a contestant in your own life." I hung up and immediately called Margaret Vance. "Ms. Vance, it's Carson Hale. I think it's time to file those divorce papers." Margaret Vance's office looked like a war room. Documents covered every surface, organized into neat piles labeled financial records, evidence of adultery, social media posts, and my personal favorite, defendant's own admissions. "Mr. Hale, I have to say, in 20 years of family law, I've never seen a case where the opposing party documented their own misconduct so thoroughly." She held up a printed copy of one of Jenna's Instagram stories. "Your wife essentially created a video diary of her affair and posted it online." "She thought she was untouchable," I said. "Prizes don't face consequences, remember?" "Well, she's about to learn otherwise. Let's talk strategy." Massachusetts law was clear. Adultery could affect both asset division and spousal support. But what made our case special was the financial component. Jenna hadn't just cheated, she'd used marital assets to fund her affair while hiding income from her paramour. "The court will want to see evidence that she spent marital funds on this relationship," Margaret explained. "Dinners, hotels, gifts, travel, anything she purchased for or because of Max." I slid a thick folder across her desk. Restaurant receipts from our joint credit card, matched with her Instagram posts from the same locations, hotel charges that correspond with her GPS location data, shopping receipts for clothes she wore to meet him. Margaret flipped through the evidence, her eyebrows climbing higher with each page. "This is remarkably thorough, almost obsessively so. I'm an IT project coordinator. Documentation is what I do. And the hidden income? That's where it gets interesting." I pulled out another folder. She claimed to be earning money from her boutique job, but no income ever appeared in our joint account. She said she opened a separate business account, but I found evidence that Max was paying her directly. Cash, gifts, even rent for a small apartment downtown that I didn't know existed. She has a separate apartment? Had. Past tense. Apparently Max's wife froze his accounts when she filed for divorce. Jenna couldn't make the rent and got evicted last week. Margaret actually smiled. "The gift that keeps on giving. What about the co-respondent situation with Max's divorce?" That's where things get really interesting. I'd done some digging into Max's situation. Maxwell Thornton, age 45, CEO of a mid-sized investment firm, married for 15 years with 2 teenage children. His wife, Elise, had apparently known about his affairs for years, but chose to look the other way until Jenna's social media explosion made it impossible to ignore. Elise Thornton hired Boston's most aggressive divorce attorney, I explained. She's going for the throat, claiming Max used marital assets to fund multiple affairs, including substantial payments to Jenna. She's seeking full custody, the house, half his business, and punitive alimony. And Jenna's caught in the middle. Exactly. As a named co-respondent, she'll have to testify under oath about the money Max gave her, the gifts, the apartment, everything. And if she lies, perjury charges. Margaret nodded approvingly. I like the way you think. But what's your end game here? Do you want to reconcile or bury her? I thought about that question. 3 months ago, I would have said reconcile. I'd loved Jenna once, or at least I'd loved who I thought she was, but that woman had never existed. The person I'd married was a carefully constructed persona designed to extract maximum value from a relationship while providing minimum investment in return. I want justice, I said finally, and I want to make sure she can't do this to anyone else. Fair enough. Let's file the papers. The divorce petition was a masterpiece of legal precision. We cited adultery, financial misconduct, and emotional cruelty. We requested full division of assets, no spousal support, and reimbursement for the money she'd spent on her affair. But the real weapon was the motion for temporary financial relief. Since Jenna had been unemployed, her boutique job had ended when her employer learned about the scandal, and since she'd lost her sugar daddy when Max's accounts were frozen, she had no income and no savings. Meanwhile, I had documentation proving she'd spent thousands of marital dollars on her affair. The court ordered her to repay the money immediately or face wage garnishment, which was hilarious since she had no wages to garnish. Jenna's response was to hire the cheapest lawyer she could find and file a counter-petition claiming I was financially abusive and emotionally controlling. She alleged that I'd monitored her spending and violated her privacy and used social media to humiliate her. Margaret's response to her counter-petition was swift and brutal. Defendants claim that plaintiff monitored her spending refers to plaintiff's review of joint bank account statements, a normal and reasonable financial practice between married couples. Defendants claim that plaintiff violated her privacy refers to plaintiff's discovery of defendant's adultery and financial misconduct. Defendants claim that plaintiff used social media to humiliate her refers to plaintiff's factual account of defendant's own publicly posted statements and behavior. The judge was not impressed with Jenna's arguments. But while the legal process ground forward, I had other plans for Max. See, Maxwell Thornton had made a crucial mistake. When he started investigating me, asking my mailman about our finances, trying to figure out if I was a threat to his arrangement with Jenna, he'd revealed something important. He saw me as competition, which meant he was afraid of me. I decided to give him something to really worry about. It started with a simple email to his business address. Max, I think we should talk. I have some information about Jenna that you might find interesting, and I suspect you have information about her that I might find useful. I'll be at Murphy's Pub on State Street tonight at 7 p.m. Corner booth. Let's discuss this like civilized men. Carson Murphy's was a classic Boston dive bar, the kind of place where financial executives never went and IT coordinators blended into the background. I arrived early, ordered a beer, and waited. Max showed up at exactly 7 p.m., looking like a man who'd aged 5 years in the past month. His expensive suit couldn't hide the stress lines around his eyes or the way his hands shook slightly when he sat down. "You're Carson," he said. It wasn't a question. "And you're the man who's been sleeping with my wife. Drink?" He ordered scotch, expensive scotch, the kind that costs more per shot than most people spend on lunch. Old habits. "Look," he said, "I want you to know that I never intended for things to go as far as they did. Jenna she's very persuasive. She's very expensive," I corrected. "The apartment, the dinners, the shopping trips, the cash payments. What was that? A monthly retainer for services rendered." His face flushed red. "It wasn't like that." "What was it like, Max? Help me understand. You're married, she's married, but you decided to play house anyway. What was the long-term plan?" "There wasn't a long-term plan. It was just fun. Exciting. She made me feel young again. For a price? Everyone has a price. Do they? What's yours?" He looked confused. "What do you mean?" I leaned forward. "I mean, what would it cost for me to keep quiet about the financial irregularities in your arrangement with Jenna?" "What financial irregularities?" "The ones your wife's divorce attorney is going to find when they subpoena your business records. The company credit cards you used for personal expenses. The business trips that were actually romantic getaways. The consulting payments to shell companies that don't exist. Max went very still. How do you know about that? And because I'm very good at research, Max, and because Jenna documented everything. Every dinner, every trip, every gift. She posted it all online, tagged the locations, mentioned the dates. Your wife's attorney just has to match her posts to your expense reports. What do you want? I want you to disappear, completely. No contact with Jenna, no financial support, no interference with my divorce. And I want you to make a statement to my attorney confirming the extent of your financial relationship with her. And if I don't? I pulled out my phone and showed him a screenshot. It was his company's ethics hotline, with a draft email describing potential misuse of corporate funds by a senior executive. Then I send this. And then I send copies of Jenna's social media posts to your business partners, your clients, and that country club where you play golf every Saturday. Max stared at the phone screen for a long moment. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a choice, the same choice you offered me when you decided to pursue my wife. The difference is I'm being honest about the terms. He finished his scotch in one gulp. Fine, I'll sign your statement, but this ends here. No more contact, no more threats. Agreed, as long as you keep your end of the bargain. We shook hands like gentlemen, and I walked away with everything I needed to destroy Jenna's credibility in court. But Max, as it turned out, had one more surprise for me. 3 days later, Margaret called with news. Carson, you're not going to believe this. Maxwell Thornton just fired his divorce attorney and agreed to give his wife everything she asked for. Full custody, the house, half the business, everything. Why would he do that? Because his wife found something. Apparently Jenna wasn't his first affair. There were others, multiple others, and he'd been using company money to fund all of them. His business partners gave him a choice: resign quietly or face criminal charges for embezzlement. Max had chosen resignation and bankruptcy and public humiliation. What does this mean for our case? I asked. It means Jenna's sugar daddy is broke, unemployed, and facing potential criminal charges. She picked the wrong horse to bet on. That evening, Jenna called me again. Carson, I need help. Her voice was small, defeated. The confident prize persona had cracked completely. What kind of help? Financial help. I can't make rent. I can't afford groceries. My credit cards are maxed out, and Max isn't. He can't support you anymore because his wife took everything and his business partners fired him for embezzlement? How did you know that? I make it my business to know things now. It's amazing what you can learn when you actually pay attention. Carson, please. I know I made mistakes, but I'm desperate here. I don't have anywhere else to turn. You made choices, Jenna. You chose Max over me. You chose his money over our marriage. You chose to call me mediocre and disposable. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. I was wrong. I see that now. You're a good man, a stable man. I took that for granted. You took me for granted. There's a difference. Can we try again? Can we go to counseling? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Could I forgive her? Could I trust her again? Could we rebuild something real from the ashes of her lies? Jenna, answer me honestly. If Max still had his money, if his wife hadn't found out, if you weren't facing financial ruin, would you be calling me right now? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. That's not fair. It's the only question that matters, and we both know the answer. Carson, the divorce papers will be finalized next month. After that, you'll be free to find another contestant for your prize game. Good luck with that. I hung up and immediately blocked her number. The next phase of my plan was about to begin. The thing about social media justice is that it's swift, brutal, and absolutely unforgiving. Jenna had built her entire identity around being an influencer, someone whose opinions and lifestyle choices carried weight in the digital world. She'd cultivated an image of empowerment, success, and authenticity. That image was about to meet reality in the most public way possible. It started with a simple Google search. Anyone who typed Jenna Marlowe Boston now found my viral post, the news coverage of our divorce, and dozens of Reddit threads dissecting her behavior. Her carefully curated Instagram feed looked different when viewed through the lens of public knowledge about her affair and financial misconduct. But the real damage came from an unexpected source: other women. See, Jenna's brand of empowerment had always rubbed people the wrong way. The constant humble bragging, the expensive lifestyle funded by mysterious sources, the condescending advice about knowing your worth, it had created enemies she didn't even know she had. When the truth came out, those enemies became very vocal. Authentic Allison. Been following this Jenna drama, and honestly, not surprised. She always gave me major fake vibes. Real empowerment doesn't come from spending someone else's money. Ex-Boston mom blogger. PSA. This is what actual financial abuse looks like. Not when your husband asks about joint account spending, but when your wife steals marital assets to fund an affair. Real talk, Rachel. To all the women defending Jenna. She's not a victim of the patriarchy. She's a victim of her own choices. Stop making excuses for bad behavior. The comments section of every post became a battlefield. Jenna's remaining supporters, mostly other lifestyle influencers who saw themselves in her story, tried to frame the situation as slut-shaming and victim-blaming. But they were vastly outnumbered by women who were genuinely angry about Jenna's behavior and what it represented. Modern feminist 2024. This isn't about judging women's choices. This is about calling out someone who used feminism as a shield while treating another human being like garbage. Working mom life. I bust my ass 50 hours a week to support my family. Don't tell me this woman is empowered for lying and cheating her way to designer handbags. At Boston local. My husband and I have been married 15 years. We share everything: money, decisions, responsibilities. That's what partnership looks like. This is just parasitism with better marketing. The hashtag #AllDeChassArms actually empowered started trending, with women sharing stories of real financial independence, genuine partnerships, and authentic success. It became a movement about the difference between empowerment and entitlement, between confidence and narcissism. Jenna tried to fight back with a series of Instagram live sessions where she attempted to control the narrative. Each one was a masterclass in self-destruction. I want to address the negativity and harassment I've been receiving, she said in the first video, filmed from what looked like a cheap hotel room. What you're seeing is a coordinated attack by my ex-husband and his supporters. This is what happens when women try to leave toxic relationships. We get punished for it. The comments were immediate and brutal. Girl, you were the toxic one. Show us the receipts for your business income. How is cheating and stealing empowering? Your ex posted literal screenshots of your words. She tried again a few days later. I want to talk about privacy and consent. My private messages were shared without my permission. My financial information was made public. This is a violation of my basic human rights. More comments. You posted half this stuff yourself on Instagram. What about his privacy when you were cheating? You literally filmed yourself talking about your affair. Rights come with responsibilities, sweetie. But the final video, the one that ended her influencer career permanently, was filmed after she'd been drinking. You know what? Fine. You want the truth? I'll give you the truth. Yes, I was seeing Max. Yes, he gave me money. Yes, I spent Carson's money too. But you know what else is true? I was miserable. I was fading inside, married to the most boring man in Boston. He never took me anywhere exciting, never bought me anything beautiful, never made me feel special. Max did. Max saw me as the prize I am. She was crying now, mascara running down her face. And you know what's really messed up? All of you sitting there judging me, you'd have done the same thing. If a rich, handsome man wanted to spoil you, if he made you feel like a goddess instead of a roommate, you'd have taken that chance too. The only difference is I was honest about it. The video went viral for all the wrong reasons, not because people sympathized with her, but because she just confirmed every negative assumption about her character. She'd admitted to the affair, the financial misconduct, and the emotional cruelty, and then tried to justify it all by claiming other people would do the same thing. The response was swift and merciless, ethics in action. I was honest about it. Except for the part where you lied to your husband for months, a marriage matters. Speak for yourself. Most of us honor our vows even when marriage gets boring. Boston Strong 2024. This is what narcissistic personality disorder looks like, folks. Dev the engineer. Plot twist. The most boring man in Boston just became the most interesting by exposing this mess. Dev's comment got 15,000 likes. But the real consequences came in the offline world. Jenna's remaining friends, the ones who hadn't already distanced themselves, began cutting ties publicly. Blair, her former partner in crime, posted a statement on her own Instagram. I want to address my former friendship with Jenna Marlowe. While I initially supported her during her divorce, recent revelations about her behavior have made me reconsider our relationship. I do not condone adultery, financial deception, or the cruel treatment of a spouse. I'm taking a step back to focus on my own growth and authentic relationships. Even Blair was throwing her under the bus. The boutique where Jenna had briefly worked issued a statement distancing themselves from her and clarifying that she had never been an official employee, just a social media collaborator whose contract was terminated due to conduct inconsistent with our brand values. Her apartment applications were rejected. Landlords Googled her name and found the divorce coverage. Her job applications disappeared into the void. Employers did the same searches. Her dating profile matches dried up when potential suitors discovered her story. She'd become unemployable, unrentable, and undateable. The internet had decided she was toxic, and the internet's memory was long. But I wasn't done yet. The final phase of my plan required one last public appearance, and I knew exactly where to stage it. Murphy's Pub, where I'd confronted Max, hosted a weekly trivia night that drew a mixed crowd of young professionals, college students, and longtime locals. It was the perfect venue for what I had in mind. I arrived early and spoke to the trivia host, a comedian named Jake who moonlighted as a bartender. The same Jake who'd been our waiter at the steakhouse where this all began. "Jake, I have a proposition for you. What would you say to having the most talked about man in Boston as a guest host for tonight's trivia?" Jake's eyes lit up. "Carson Hale. Dude, you're like a local celebrity now. Half my customers have been following your story." "Perfect. I want to do something special for the final round. A category called Know Your Worth. Questions about financial literacy, relationship red flags, and the difference between confidence and narcissism." That's genius and brutal. I love it. Word spread quickly through social media that I'd be at Murphy's. By 7 p.m., the place was packed. College students, young professionals, divorced men and women, even some local reporters who'd been covering the story. The regular trivia questions went smoothly. Pop culture, history, science, sports. But when we reached the final round, Jake handed me the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, for our final category tonight, we have a special guest host. You know him from the internet, you've seen him in the news, and you've probably learned more about modern relationships from his story than from any dating app. Please welcome Carson Hale." The crowd erupted. Cheers, applause, even some whistles. I felt like a rock star. "Thank you," I said into the microphone. "Tonight's final category is Know Your Worth. These questions are about recognizing value in relationships, in life, and in yourself. Let's start with an easy one. Question 1, true or false? In a healthy relationship, both partners contribute financially, emotionally, and practically to the partnership." Easy murmurs of true rippled through the crowd. Question 2, what's the difference between self-confidence and narcissism? I watched teams huddle together, debating their answers. Question 3, if your partner calls you mediocre and disposable while spending your money on someone else, what should you do? A, try harder to please them. B, accept that you're lucky to have them. C, document everything and lawyer up. Or D, all of the above. The crowd laughed and several people shouted, "See?" Question 4, true or false? Social media influencers who post about knowing your worth while hiding the source of their income are reliable sources of life advice. More laughter, louder this time. And finally, question 5. Complete this sentence. The real prize in any relationship is... I paused, looking out at the crowd. Young couples holding hands, divorced people on dates, friends supporting each other through difficult times. Real people living authentic lives. The real prize in any relationship is finding someone who sees you as an equal partner, not a contestant in their game. The crowd erupted again, this time with genuine emotion. People were clapping, cheering, even crying a little. As teams submitted their answers and Jake tallied the scores, someone in the back shouted, "Speech! Speech!" Others picked up the chant. Jake handed me the microphone again. "All right," I said. "You want a speech? Here's what I learned from the worst year of my life." The room went quiet. I learned that love isn't about winning prizes or competing for someone's attention. It's about building something together, brick by brick, day by day. It's about choosing each other even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when there's no Instagram story to post about it. I learned that authenticity isn't about having the perfect life. It's about being honest about the imperfect one you actually have. I learned that financial partnership isn't about who makes more money. It's about transparency, trust, and shared goals. And I learned that sometimes the most empowering thing you can do is walk away from someone who treats you like you're disposable. I looked directly at one of the reporters in the crowd. To anyone who's been following this story, here's what I want you to know. I'm not a victim. I'm not a hero. I'm just a guy who decided to stop accepting less than he deserved. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's story, I'm okay with that. The crowd was on its feet now, applauding wildly. One last thing, I said. To all the prizes out there, remember that contestants can always choose to play a different game. I handed the microphone back to Jake and walked out of the pub to a standing ovation. The next morning, video clips of my speech had been viewed over 1 million times across various social media platforms. Contestant No More was trending nationally. I'd somehow become the poster child for standing up to narcissistic partners. But the best part, the absolute perfect ending to this whole mess, came 3 days later. Jenna tried to crash my moment of triumph. She was waiting outside my office building on a Thursday afternoon, looking like a ghost of her former self. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup. She wore jeans and a sweater that had seen better days, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, her face bare of the Instagram-ready facade she'd maintained for years. "Carson, please, I need to talk to you." I stopped walking and really looked at her. 3 months ago, this woman had called me mediocre and disposable. She'd spent our money on another man while planning to leave me for someone richer. She'd humiliated me in front of friends and strangers alike. Now she looked desperate, broken, and completely defeated. "There's nothing left to talk about, Jenna. The divorce is final, the assets are divided, and you've made your feelings about me very clear." "I was wrong." Her voice cracked. "About everything. You're not mediocre, you're not disposable. You're the best man I've ever known, and I threw it all away for nothing." "You threw it away for Max, for his money, his lifestyle, his promises. How did that work out for you?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "Max was a mistake, a huge, stupid mistake. But Carson, what you've done to me, this public humiliation, the social media campaign, destroying my reputation, it's cruel. It's not like you." "You're right. The old me would have suffered in silence, maybe gone to therapy, definitely blamed myself for not being good enough. But you taught me something valuable, Jenna. You taught me that people will treat you exactly as badly as you let them." "So this is revenge?" "This is consequences. There's a difference." She started crying then, real tears, not the performative kind she'd used in her Instagram videos. "I lost everything, Carson. My friends, my job prospects, my reputation. I can't even get an apartment because landlords Google my name. I'm living in a motel, working at a call center for minimum wage. I have nothing." "You have exactly what you brought to our marriage," I said. "Yourself. Your looks, your personality, your character. Isn't that what you always said was enough? Isn't that what made you the prize? Don't be cruel. I'm being honest. For the first time in our relationship, we're both being completely honest." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing what little makeup she wore. "What do you want from me? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for cheating. I'm sorry for lying. I'm sorry for spending your money and calling you names and treating you like garbage. I'm sorry for all of it." "I don't want your apology, Jenna. It's 3 months too late and completely self-serving." "Then what? What will it take for you to call off your followers? To stop the harassment? To let me move on with my life?" I stared at her for a long moment. This woman who'd once been the center of my world. She was still beautiful, even broken and desperate. She was still charming when she wanted to be. In 6 months or a year, she'd probably find another man to support her, another relationship to exploit. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I can't call off the internet, Jenna. I shared one post about our marriage. Everything else, the news coverage, the social media backlash, the viral videos, that's just people reacting to your own words and actions. But you could post something supportive. Tell people to leave me alone. Ask for forgiveness and understanding. Why would I do that? Because you loved me once. Because you're a good person. Because it's the right thing to do. I almost laughed. Even now, even after everything, she was trying to manipulate me, appealing to my better nature, to my desire to be seen as a good person, to my old habit of protecting her from the consequences of her own choices. "Jenna, do you remember what you told me the night I confronted you about the affair?" She looked confused. "Which part?" "You said I was boring, average, and forgettable. You said I needed you more than you needed me. You said I should be grateful for the privilege of supporting you. Do you remember that?" I was angry. I said things I didn't mean. "No, you said things you did mean, things you'd been thinking for months, maybe years. You revealed who you really were underneath all the performance." "People change, Carson. I've changed." "Have you? Or are you just desperate?" She didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to rebuild your life from the ground up, just like I did. You're going to learn what it's like to work for minimum wage and worry about rent and choose between groceries and gas money. You're going to discover whether you actually have anything to offer the world besides your looks and your willingness to let men pay for your lifestyle. That's not fair. It's exactly fair. It's the life most people live every day, the life you called mediocre. And then what? After I've suffered enough to satisfy your need for revenge, then what? Then nothing. We go our separate ways and never speak again. You build whatever life you can build, and I continue building mine. Without forgiveness? Without mercy? I forgave you the night you called me disposable. I forgave you when I found out about Max. I forgave you when I discovered you'd been stealing our money. But forgiveness doesn't mean I have to save you from the consequences of your choices. She was quiet for a long time, staring at the sidewalk. I really did love you, she said finally. Maybe not the way I should have, maybe not enough, but I did love you. I know, I said. And I loved you too. But love isn't enough when one person sees the other as a contestant instead of a partner. So this is it? This is how our story ends? I looked at her one last time, really looked at her. The woman I'd married, the stranger she'd become, the broken person standing in front of me now. No, I said. This is how your story begins. For the first time in your adult life, you're completely on your own. No husband to support you, no sugar daddy to spoil you, no safety net except what you build yourself. You wanted to know your worth? Now you'll find out. I turned and walked toward my building, leaving her standing on the sidewalk. Carson, she called after me. I stopped but didn't turn around. What if I can't do it? What if I'm not strong enough to rebuild? Then you'll learn something about yourself that I learned about you months ago. Which is? That some people are prizes and some people are just participation trophies. I walked into my building and didn't look back. 6 months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Jenna had moved back in with her parents in Ohio. She was working at a department store and dating a local mechanic. A good man, by all accounts, but not wealthy. Not the kind of man she would have looked at twice during her prize phase. Maybe she'd learned something about real love, real partnership, real worth. Maybe she'd become a better person through suffering and struggle, or maybe she was just biding her time until she found another mark. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. I was dating someone new, Sarah, a teacher who split dinner checks and paid her own rent, and thought my story was hilarious rather than tragic. She called me her partner, not her contestant. She saw our relationship as something we were building together, not something she was entitled to receive. She was, in other words, an actual prize, the kind you win by being worthy of winning, not by being willing to pay the entry fee. On our 6-month anniversary, Sarah and I went to dinner at the same steakhouse where Jenna had first called herself the prize. The same place where this whole story began. Jake was still working there, and he recognized me immediately. Carson, my man, how's life treating you? Can't complain, I said, squeezing Sarah's hand. We'll have the couple's special, and we'll be splitting the check. Jake grinned. Now that's what I call a healthy relationship. As we waited for our food, Sarah raised her wine glass. What are we toasting to? I asked. To contestants who learned to play a better game. We clinked glasses, and I realized that for the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy. Not vindicated, not victorious, just content. The real prize, it turned out, wasn't winning or losing or getting revenge. It was finding someone who didn't see life as a game at all.